When you are in fear of receiving, you are actually blocking the flow of abundance back to you. Because if you're giving, nothing just gives. You also have to receive.
Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast.
Today is a very special episode. And I just saw something as I was about to begin talking about this episode. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 blocks keeping you from manifesting abundance and how to clear them. Because I wouldn't just give you the problem without giving you the solution, because that feels mean. So today's episode, 5 blocks, is also episode 55. There's a lot of 5s in here, and I wanted to look up the numerology of 5 just to kind of help you understand. And this is, again, so interesting because I was guided to talk about these blocks today, and it being 5 blocks, and then I didn't even realize that it was episode 55. And so the numerology of 5 is inherently destabilizing. 4 is stable. If you think about 4 corners of foundation, 5 is now, we're adding a different, now a number that kind of doesn't have a pair, right? One of the 5 don't have a pair. So this is really about change, transformation, trusting your intuition, embracing new opportunities. So it's interesting because when we talk about blocks to your manifesting abundance, you are being urged to transform. Anything that is blocking your forward momentum is actually telling you that there's something that's not in alignment with the thing that you want. So whenever you're not getting what you want, it's a really great time to come into curiosity with like, I wonder what this is about. And where we go into a trauma response is there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with the world, right? We want to blame. We want something to be responsible for why we don't have the thing. And it's not about that. It's just actually about alignment. We just don't have the thing that we want because we haven't really figured out how to get to what we want instead. And really, this goes for any walk of life. Even if you are struggling with finances or putting food on the table, if there is a path forward to it. And I always like to say there's also meaning in the experience of it. So no matter how crappy it is, there's something here that your soul desired to learn, and to ask the question of like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And sometimes I also like to flip it a bit and ask, if I had the thing that I wanted, what would I not be learning then? So an example of this is money, right? If I had money right now, if I'm struggling with money, if I had money right now, what would I do with it? And sometimes the answer is I would buy everything. I'd buy all the courses. I'd be in all of the masterminds and all the things. And the constraint of money is actually making me very discerning. It's making me learn how to save money. It's actually making me learn that I don't want to be in every room. If I had the money, I don't think I would have had that lesson. I had to be really discerning with what rooms I'm in. And then even focusing on maybe being in no rooms and getting my money house in order. That was an opportunity that having, scarcity in my life, a true, deciding what to pay my bills with, whether it's this or this bill, I have more bills than I have money. And I think it's interesting when we talk about money and money scarcity and trauma. I definitely want to do more episodes on that because lots of people have money trauma. And it is an opportunity to learn something huge about yourself. So whether it's about relationships or money or house or career or whatever it is, purpose coming up from your heart and you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing with it, this today's episode is going to help you to understand where the blocks are and then understand how to move them aside. So in every quarter, I run a Manifest Your Best Life challenge, which is a wonderful place to come in live with me. I do it on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and you have a guidebook and a meditation that you get as a gift for signing up for the registering for the 5-day challenge. And then you get to walk with me for those 5 days, and you can ask questions, and I get to help you and go deeper into the things that we're going to talk about today. So common ways people unintentionally block abundance and how we're going to shift them is really what we're going to talk about today. So, block number one, and we hear this a lot, is called scarcity mindset. And scarcity just means that there's not enough for everybody, right? There's scarcity. And yeah, I have a business degree. You might be surprised to know that, but when something is scarce, then the price of it goes up, right? Because there's not enough supply and there's a high amount of demand, and then pricing is up. But if we have a lot of supply and not a lot of demand, well, then we got a whole bunch of stuff that no one wants to buy. So the pricing goes down because we're trying to move it out, right? That's a simple economics graph that you learn in Economics 101 in first year of university. And in scarcity mindset, we then feel there's some part of our brain that has somehow thought we don't have enough to go around. And scarcity mindset cannot just be with money. It could feel with love, that we're competing with somebody else's love, relationships. We don't want our friends to have other friends because we feel like they might replace us, right? There's scarcity in all types of ways in our lives, right? And there's a belief that money, success, love, whatever it is limited, right? And scarcity mindset can lead to jealousy and envy. And so when we think about jealousy and envy, the energy behind it is, I can't have that, right? When you feel jealousy, and jealousy and envy are parts of the human experience. It's again a kind of a trauma response to, I see someone has something that I want. And then when you feel like you're not worthy of that, you make up a story. And the story says, I'm jealous of that person. I envy that person. And I learned at a very young age that when you think these people have all the things, they actually don't have all the things. Underneath, there's something very much lacking, that they're in their own story, right? They're on their own journey. To envy or be jealous of someone else, you're not actually seeing the whole story around it. You're just seeing the thing that you want, right? We don't even know how much they had to give up for that. We often think people who drive, fancy cars and live in big homes have lots of money, and they actually might have a lot of debt. Like we don't know. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes in that. They might be fighting a massive, disorder within themselves of some kind, be it of the mind or of the body. Like we actually don't know all the things around their story. We're just seeing the thing that is portrayed. And we notice that a lot in Hollywood, people who are, influencers. It's, you don't know. Right. So jealousy means I will never have that. I can't have that. I want that, but I can't have it. And the reframe on that is, if I can see it, then I can make it happen. The world is showing you an example of what is possible. So if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. So anytime you feel jealousy coming up in your heart, I want you to say, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. And the universe is showing you that it's possible because they're showing you in that person that has what you want. So every time I see somebody who has something that I want to create in my life, I'm like, thank you, universe. Thank you. And I want to lean into this person, and I want to hear about their story, and I want to know how they did it. And I want to learn about them, about their mission and what happened behind the scenes, because there always seems to be another side of the story, right? It's funny. I had a conversation with a girlfriend who was doing really, really well last year, still is doing well this year. And I'm like, what did you do that catapulted your business into so much success? And I was fully expecting her to say, I launched this program. That's what I think. I'm like, the next program, the next thing I want, what's the magic button I'm going to press that's going to make my business go to 7 and 8 figures? What is that button? And that's what I was asking her. And she's like, you're going to be really disappointed with my answer. And I was like, wah, wah. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm going to be disappointed with my answer? And she said, I stopped spending money in the wrong places. And I was like, ew. I don't want to stop spending money in places. I don't know, like what's the wrong places? And she said, I have the answers within me. I don't need to be looking outside myself all the time. And I was like, yeah, it was actually the program she launched. In my mind, that's what I was saying, right? But I knew there was words of wisdom because she wouldn't tell me, she wouldn't steer me wrong. I love her so much and she loves me very dearly. And I really sat with that for a long time. You know, it was like chewing on it for like a year where I was just chewing on it. And I was like, what if it's right? What if I just divest from everything and I just focus on what I'm supposed to do? I know my next steps and I don't have to spend on everything else because scarcity, trying to spend on everything to get more is scarcity because you feel like you got to spend money to make money or you got to invest in this or do like sometimes investments in things are important, right? All of the personal development I've ever invested in has come back to me 10 times, 100 times, right? It's never a bad thing. And I always pass on all the things that I'm learning to my clients, to the members in my membership. I'm always teaching something new because I'm always learning too. Because I'm interested, not because I'm scared that I won't know enough. There was a time when I had that feeling of like, I have to stay ahead of this ball. I have to keep learning something new. And I realized it's enough. I've got all the tools, right? And it was really interesting because I was just having a conversation with someone and they're like, you should talk about that more. And I'm like, it's just common sense. And she's like, no, it's not. For you, it is because I live in this world of energy and reciprocity and, spirit. It's kind of just, it becomes old, not old hat, but just you're too close to it. It's part of you. You don't realize that it's special. So, scarcity mindset, belief that money and success or love is limited. And when you believe that, you attract that, right? So, you will always be needing more. You will always be seeing lack out in the world and who has and who hasn't and how much you don't have. And so, you're sort of opening, your mind is already kind of, if you're seeing the world that way, you have lack mindset. You have scarcity mindset. And the way to reframe that is to move into gratitude, right? Thank you, universe, for showing me this person that has this thing because then I can have it too. If it's possible for them, it's possible for me. Thank you for all that I have in my life already. Look at all the gratitude. Look at all the abundance around me. When I am falling asleep at night, that is how I fall asleep. I thank the universe, thank God, thank source for all that I have in my life, right? Thank you for this warm bed. Thank you for running water. Thank you for indoor plumbing. Thank you for this roof over my head. Like, thank you for all these things. And I don't remember even how high I can get sometimes. I just fall asleep being so grateful in my heart, in my cozy bed, in my warmth and safety that I have this. Because not everyone in the world does have this. So I'm so grateful for that. It's in those moments that you're falling asleep and that you're waking up that your subconscious mind is the most susceptible to programming. So when you fall asleep in gratitude, you tend to wake up pretty happy, pretty good, right? That kind of carries over. And then when you wake up in the morning, setting an intention for the day, then sets your intention into your subconscious in terms of what do I want to experience and receive today. So a lot of times my intention is I am excited and delighted by the magic of the universe today. I love that because then I'm always looking for miracles. I'm always looking to be delighted. I'm always like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. I am always in that like, oh my God, I won the lottery. I mean, not to that extent, but in that same, juicy energy of things. All right, block number 2 is fear of receiving. You're like, yeah, I'm scared of receiving $1 million. Don't give that to me. There's actually the fear of receiving comes with programming from your past. Because if you give a baby anything, the baby's like, sure, fine, I'll take it, right? You give children money and they're like, yay, thanks, like they're not like, oh, I shouldn't receive that. You learn somewhere along the way that you should the should of shame, feel guilty with receiving maybe. Or if I have, then the other person doesn't have. Sometimes we see that with siblings, or in my case, the feeling that I have is that receiving comes with strings attached. So if I receive something, I have to give something. That's sort of how our culture teaches things. I'm East Indian. And that's actually a really beautiful thing. It prevents you from just being all the ways, always a taker, taker, taker. But when you are a giver, when you are a people pleaser, that is so hard. And women are actually, when we look at the divine feminine, we are natural receivers, right? We must receive in order to give life, right? And so, but we are also givers. We give life. We give milk from our bodies. We give love. Our hands are always very nurturing. We are nurturing by nature. That is part of the feminine qualities. And men have feminine qualities too, and women have masculine qualities too. Like we need the balance of the two. But when we have a fear of receiving, it's actually there's a deficit of masculinity there, because we are in the giving nature. We're in the doing nature. And where did you learn that? Right? Why do we get into that mindset? It's because receiving feels unsafe. So if you received unwanted attention when you were younger, or unwanted things, you had to say yes even though you wanted to say no, then it can feel unsafe to receive. If strings come attached to receiving, like in my case, that feels like I don't want to. I'm safer to give than to receive, because when I give, I know what's happening. When I receive, I don't know what I'm getting, right? So that's one part of it. So it can come with unsafeness, or it can come with guilt or strings attached. So subconscious guilt around wealth and success. The other part of that is, if I have it, then no one else does. And that can often happen if you have parents that create, the word I'm looking for is like scarcity in the stuff. So I only have $5. So then if you get $4, then he'll get one. And then your siblings like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like everything was divided equally. I had two siblings. I had a sibling. I have a younger brother and me. So when we go to the store, my mom would give us like 2 loonies, which is like $2 for those who aren't in Canada. And I would get $1 and my brother would get $1. And because I'm the older one by 5 years, I would have to do the math. And my mom said, bring me the receipt. And I remember one of the times my brother didn't know, he was like 3. And I was like, oh, you can get this candy for 25 cents. And I got to have something for 175. And when we came back to the car, my mom's like, no, this is not safe. You have to give your brother what you got because you weren't being honest. And I was like, ooh, she's watching. I didn't realize it. It was interesting. It was a way to test the boundaries of it, I still remember it to this day, right? Which is a great lesson. Kids will test, right? So it's interesting, that fear of receiving can also feel like if I get, then others don't. And this actually came up in our membership recently. We were doing a manifesting money 30-day or 28-day challenge because it's February, and still going on as you listen to this podcast or whenever you're going to be listening to this. And when we were talking, we had a conversation going in the Facebook group of like, I feel guilty for asking for things. And I was like, whoa, this is juicy. Guilt and shame show unmet needs, right? Things that are not yet healed. So I said, tell me about that. What happens? What if you ask for $1 million? What's the fear? That others won't have. So I said, so they're not printing money every day. And if there's $1 million, only one person, if one person has 1 million, then other people can't have 1 million. So it's got to be 1 million people have $1. And she's like, well, I know that's ridiculous because the mint is always minting. Like they're always printing money. So what's the fear? And then when we dug deep into it, it's what would people think of me? Because she's taught to be humble. And if you have all this money now, people will think that I am dirty, that I am a dirty millionaire, and I'm a bad person. And for me, I've seen in my culture, when you have someone who has a lot of money, people will come calling, asking you for things. So it's not safe, again, to have money, because then people come wanting things from you. And I don't want to, I mean, I have to say no to people, like, and fine, I have no problem saying no to people I don't know. But what if it's like family? Then you're like, what? How do you manage that? And I mean, now I feel like I could easily say no, but at the same time, but what if I could help family? So it's really interesting, right? When you start to think about like all the reasons why receiving feels yucky to you. And if you had $1 million all of a sudden, because the truth is, people who win millions of dollars tend to lose it. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt, not to back to where they were before they got the money, bankrupt in 4 years' time. 4 years or less is actually the stat. It's crazy pants, right? It's because your thermostat is set to an amount that you feel comfortable having, receiving, earning, worthy of, all those things, same. So if now someone dropped in and gave you $1 million, your thermostat's set here, low, and you've got all this money. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to spend it so that you can get back to where your thermostat feels safe. And for the first moments, you're like, oh my God, I've got this money. You might hold it for a little bit. You might put it in your bank accounts. You might want to like kind of sit with it for a little bit. That's why many people don't claim the lottery right away. They sort of wait for a little bit of time for it to set in, to kind of become normalized. They'll consult a lawyer. They try to do things the right way. And it's really important to just think, I have what I have. That's it. I had what I had this before. I have the same amount now. Everything else is locked away. I don't have access to any of that. Almost be better to live that way, or to expand your container to be able to hold more and not feel like you got to pay everybody, you got to do all the things for everybody else. If you want to, that's good. Money amplifies what you already are, right? So, and not just money, like anything that's abundant that comes into your life. So fear of receiving, we actually have to create generosity in that, right? So, and receiving, well, you have to practice receiving. So we went for brunch and we were talking about, I have this issue of fear of receiving. And so for 1 year, they gave to me and I wasn't allowed to reciprocate, which was so hard that they wanted to buy me brunch and I could not buy them brunch back, which again goes against everything that I was brought up with. And I had to just sit in the receiving of it. So even as they were paying, I had to look at them in their eyes. I could say thank you, which I did profusely. And then they would ask me, how do you feel? And I'm like, uncomfortable. And they're like, hey, let's breathe. This is what happens when you hang out with spiritual practitioners and coaches, because it's like they can see your true color. You cannot hide from friends like this, which I love them so dearly. And I just had to sit there and breathe into the uncomfortableness of receiving. It was beautiful. They held this space for me and they're like, how do you feel? And you just kind of let yourself expand. This is what nervous system regulation looks like. I felt very dysregulated, which is so crazy. They bought me brunch and then they wouldn't let me buy the brunch back. They're like, no, you're not allowed to buy brunch back. Now we're going to go Dutch the whole time, or whatever, however it works out. But they in that moment, they're like, no, we're not letting you. And that was when I just had to sit and receive and sit and receive. And they're like, close your eyes, let's breathe. It was so good. It was so good. So that small steps to, practicing receiving and feeling safe in the receiving. And then also small acts of generosity. So you always, if you want to receive money, then you have to give. So you don't have to give money per se, but you can open a door or smile or give a compliment. We went for dinner the other day and our server came up and he had this beautiful little nose ring with a little diamond. It was like just a little sparkle, so little, but so beautiful in his nose, and just was so great. And I'm like, I love your nose ring. And he's like, thank you. I'm like, it's just the right amount of bling and it just sets off your energy. It's so beautiful. And he's like, I liked it too. Just that little bling, but it's like, it's so subtle. I was like, yes. And we had a fantastic night. He was such a great server. But I feel like, I genuinely thought it. It's not like I'm trying to create something. I genuinely loved it. And I said it because I love giving compliments. If I'm thinking it, I will say it, because I think it's going to help someone else. It's putting good energy out into the world. And it's a way that I can be generous from my heart, right? Why not? So when you do that, you're giving energy into the world that's beautiful, and it's creating more, it's abundance. And how it comes back to you, because it will come back to you. That is the law of giving and receiving, that it will come back to you, but it doesn't come back to you through the same person. So when we are giving, we're not thinking that that person is going to give back. And that was something I had to learn, because I felt that because my friends were buying me lunch, I had to buy them lunch back. But actually, I could just buy somebody else lunch, or I could buy a gift certificate and gift it to somebody, or, whatever. Like, it's going to come around at some point, because that is the way the universe works. So I love to be generous now, because I know that that comes back in better and amazing ways, and it goes out into the world and multiplies, and I don't even have to know how it multiplies, I just know it does, right? So when you are in fear of receiving, you are actually blocking the flow of abundance back to you, because if you're giving, nothing just gives. You also have to receive, right? It's kind of like cancer just grows and grows and grows. There's nothing that stops it from growing. So it's now out of balance. It's no longer receiving, it's no longer in connection with anything else. So it's cancer, right? So we need to give and receive, and the operative word there is safely, right? You need to feel safe in receiving. All right, block number 3, emotional attachment to lack. You're like, what? Can we be attached to lack? Yeah, lack can give you something. It can make you feel like you need to be saved and everyone can talk about you. I remember when talk to support you, not talk about you, talk to support you. So emotional attachment to lack is the identity is tied to struggle. Your identity is tied to struggle. And why is that? It feels comfortable, right? That's interesting. Or when I struggle, people like me, people want to save me, right? I know that my dad will come in and pay my credit card off. Not the case in my life, but I'm just giving an example of that, right? It's like, what happens when you struggle? What is something good that happens when you struggle? Because your mind is attached something good to this story, and that's why you continue to have the struggle, because it's giving you something, even from a subconscious place. Obviously, no one wants to choose struggle, but when we are choosing struggle, it means that there's something here tied to it feels good to us in some way. And instead of choosing struggle, we can choose abundance and our power, stepping into our power. So in terms of reframing that would be sort of a really wonderful goal and an antidote to emotional attachment to struggle. First, you have to unearth, why is there an attachment to struggle? Where did you learn that struggle brings you friends, brings you attention, brings you money? If you've ever watched Friends, which I know is a fictional show, Rachel at the beginning was always bailed out by her dad. Her dad was very wealthy, so paid off her bills, paid off her credit cards, and she had to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. And that was a really tough episode where she had to cut up her credit cards and all the things to just be like, okay, I don't have to be dependent on my dad. I can do this on my own. So your identity then has to shift that, okay, if I'm getting attachment, or if I'm getting connection, or I'm getting receiving through my struggle, how now can I receive through my abundance, right? How could I then connect with people who want to support me in my abundance? And how do I feel good in abundance? So there's that subconscious work has to be done. There's healing that has to be done through that. And it's really clearing the emotional attachments to lack, right? So journal on it. What does abundance mean to you? And where did you first learn that emotional attachment to lack? When did you start feeling that lack actually gave you something, or people swooped in to save you? And then identify any sort of beliefs around it. Start moving towards a new version where what you want and desire is actually like celebrated by the people around you. And maybe you might find that the people around you actually like you being in struggle because they are in struggle. And then when you're not in struggle, it makes them feel bad, which again, that's attraction. You're attracting that which you are. So when you start to up level and shift your vibration, you might notice that your friends are no longer in the same vibration as you. And it doesn't mean that they suck, and it doesn't mean that you suck. It just means that you now want different things. And it's okay to move into new spheres. It's okay for you to say, hey, you know what? I realize we're not really kind of aligning here, or, not calling them anymore, not hanging out with them anymore. And noticing that when you are feeling abundant and you are going into places where people are thriving and they're celebrating you, this is why I joined masterminds. This is why I started doing development groups and creating groups, and then also attending other people's groups, because I wanted to be in the place where people were developing themselves and celebrating that with each other. Right? I didn't want to be where people were just talking about all their problems and stuff all the time. I wanted to be around people who were actually rising into their greatness. And the more I was around them, the more I realized I really love that. And then I just started to meet all these amazing aligned friends that we all were up leveling our lives together. And it doesn't mean that you're always in up level, because again, that's Cancer, where we can also be in periods of holding, or periods where we're in curiosity, or hibernation periods where we're sort of in this cocoon of like, I don't know what's happening to me right now, but I know something is shifting. And we can just hold space for them when they're at that level, because we know that there's going to be a huge burst on the other side of that they're going to just rise, right? So it's not that we expect everyone to rise, even in my sisterhood. It's that we're just holding the space, that when people are having a hard time, we'll check in. We'll just be like wondering about them, sending them love. I'll send memes and reels their way, and we just kind of continue to hold space. So, block number 4 is misalignment between beliefs and actions. And these are hidden. So, we've kind of already talked about trauma and the mind and subconscious. These are hidden blocks in loyalty to others, because we don't want them to feel bad. And there's a subconscious block to moving forward. So our belief, coming from our mind, is that we want to do the thing we want it. So I'll give you an example. When I first launched my Facebook page of Story of Spirit Medium. So that was, I don't know why I didn't put my name as my Facebook page. I think I was a little bit nervous with coming out with it in case my employer found out or whatever. So I made it Story of Spirit Medium, and now won't let me change my name to Sheetal Story. So that's my business page on Facebook. But when I started my Instagram account, I put it as Sheetal Story. So I launched my Facebook page because Facebook was a big thing then. Instagram kind of starting at that time. I know I'm showing my age. And I was scared. I was so scared what people were going to say. Oh, yeah, I went to school with you. You think you're something special, or you think you're psychic, really? And I pressed launch the page. I made it live, and I closed everything down, and it went away. And I was probably away for 4 hours, and I was dying because at that point I didn't have it on my phone. I was using a work phone. So I came back to a computer 4 hours later, and I checked. And it was like hundreds of comments of, oh my God, Sheetal, I knew it all along. You were a palm reader in grade 5 at the school carnival. Do you remember that? I knew then that you were psychic. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And there was not any comments at all about me being a fraud as a psychic. Not a single one. And I was like, oh, this is exciting, right? I'm going larger and larger stages. I did get some trolls angry because they thought Story of Spirit meant that I was a writing page helping people to tell the story of their spirit. And I was like, no, it's my name. And they're like, this is a fake name. Who are you? And I was like, tried to explain myself. And of course, they're not listening. And I just learned a very valuable lesson about block and delete. Block and delete. Because who cares, right? They're not on my mission. They're not ready for me. Go write your story somewhere else. So block and delete. And the misalignment between beliefs and actions, where that now, okay, I've got this. I'm excited. I've launched out into the world, and now I want to go bigger, right? So I want to maybe start putting out some posts on there, and I have online classes. We're already, because I was doing classes in person, and then COVID hit, so we couldn't do any more in person. So I just put them online, and I already had an aligned audience, so that was already coming together. So it was quite seamless for me to transition to online business. But as I started to put posts out about what I was doing, I noticed that I was procrastinating, and I'm not a procrastinator. I'm an achiever. Remember, I achieve to receive. I'm a go-getter. I am a I'm a nerd, right? I can be a super nerd where I'll be having my hand up all the time. I have answers to everything. I want to participate. I'm an extrovert nerd. And so I was procrastinating on things, and to the point where my team's like, where is this? I had a web designer at the time, and then there was also setting up my website and everything. And I literally was waiting till every last minute to send things. And I'm like, this is not me. What is happening? My belief was that I wanted to get bigger. My actions were no, 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 girl, no. And I was like, what is happening? And I ended up taking a seminar. It was a summit or like a conference, 3 days. And it was all about subconscious programming and trauma in the mind. And we did this exercise where we had to, the thing that you are struggling with, you had to meet that part of you that is holding you back, so to speak, which is actually a safety mechanism. And what is that part trying to keep you safe from? And oh my God, I've met my younger self who was 11 years old, who went to patrol camp because she was voted unanimously the captain of the patrol team as we were going from grade 5 to grade 6. And everybody had to go to patrol camp. All the captains had to go to patrol camp from all the schools in the city and surrounding areas. And patrol camp was a 5-day in-person sleepover camp. You could not go home. And I had never been away from my mom. My mom and I were tight, still tight to this day. And, I'm East Indian, so my parents don't trust anybody with their kids. So I was like, this is the first time I'm sleeping away. And they had the girls in one dorm and the boys in the other dorm. And the girls that I got paired with were so mean. They were massive bullies. It was really awful time. And I just went in with my heart open. I just got unanimously voted. I'm feeling good about myself. And then here are these girls that were so mean, and they knew each other, and they were very wealthy, and I was not. I had my byway jeans, and my everything was secondhand. My mom used to sew my clothes and cut my hair until grade 6. So they met nerdy Sheetal, and nerdy Sheetal is so smart though. And she's got a Scorpio rising, so that means you don't mess with Sheetal. And little Sheetal is vengeful, y'all, vengeful. So when these girls would tell me that I should kill myself, that I didn't deserve to live, that I was poor and horrible and ugly. Like, I kid you not, these are the words that they said to me. Little Sheetal got angry, angry. So when they came around for room check, right before, because if the dirtiest room had to do bathroom duty, so we would come, and we had the first room on the hallway. So they would come to us last because they worked the way down the hallway and back. And I would be watching out the door to see if they were coming. And as soon as she was in the next room, the camp counselor, I would take everything off the shelves and throw it on the ground. Vengeful, y'all, because I wanted them to get bathroom duty. And I didn't care that I was also going to get bathroom duty, because you don't get to boss me around. I'm going to make your life miserable too. You think you want to tell me to off myself? Get bent. And hats off to 5-year-old me. Let's be honest, because man, she could have shrunk in a corner and been like, I was miserable. Like, let's be honest, I was miserable, but I was not going to take it from these ladies. I want to use another word, but I'm trying to keep it clean. So they would get mad at me, hated my guts even more. Which, again, vengeance is not the way, y'all. I want to go back and tell little Sheetal, vengeance is not the way. But what else? I know. I'm kind of a little proud of her, because there's no other way. These girls, whatever, they're going to continue to be who they are. So I made them pay. They had to do bathroom duty with me, and I got my bathroom duty stuff done too. I didn't care. Because I actually washed toilets and scrub floors, because that's what we do in my house. Those girls did not have that. So I kind of secretly laughed about that. Again, vengeful, y'all. Like, I can feel it in my heart. I was mad, right? I wanted to get back at them. And I was very, very sad. I wanted to leave. I felt I've never had that kind of experience before like that. I went to the head administrator and said, I want to go home. And he said, quitters go home, and quitters are not patrol captains. So if you leave now, you will fail this class and you will not be the patrol captain. And I will tell your principal and teacher to get you removed and somebody else can be the captain. And I looked at him, my Scorpio self, like, fine, I will stay and I will ace the test. And he's like, so you don't want to call your mom? And he picked up the phone and he held it to me like he was testing me. And I seriously wanted to cry. I could feel my chin quivering. And I'm like, nope, I'm staying. He's like, fine, go back to your dorm. And I don't know how these people were in charge of children, y'all. Like, looking back on it, it was so awful. And to be fair, that's my remembrance of it. Is that the truth of it? I don't know. I mean, that's my 11-year-old memory. It would be interesting to go back and see what actually happened, if that's truth. So I can hold space for that's my perception of things. But it was pretty awful. Needless to say, I found became part of the group of misfits. There was one camp counselor that didn't fit in with all the other straight lace guy. This guy wore, it was called Vision Streetwear back in the day. I don't know if you remember that. He wore Vision Streetwear. He had his BMX bike. He would do tricks with it, and he was almost like the Pied Piper of all the misfit children. I remember a kid that picked his nose and another one that had a pocket protector, and we just hung out with this camp counselor, which is unfortunate because he was a guy. So my counselors were all the women. So I kind of had to leave his group and go back to my own quite a bit. But yeah, I did learn archery and I aced that test with like a 91%. And I came back and I was the captain of my team. But what I learned from that experience was that when I am seen, when I have achieved and I'm stepped forward, I'm a target. I didn't even know that was there. It was hidden in my subconscious and it was coming out when I had to show up online, when I had to play a bigger game. So I had to do the healing. I called back little Sheetal. She comes with me everywhere. She is feisty. She is spicy. And she is out now into the world, y'all. That's why I've got this podcast. That healing allowed me to be here with you all now. So the healing is the work. It is actually the most potent part of manifestation. And how do you do that by yourself? You can't see your own blind spots, right? You don't know why you're doing that. I just knew that I was procrastinating all the time. Why do I procrastinate? I don't know. Why don't I just do the thing? I was so mad at myself that I wasn't doing the thing. But actually, there was this little girl that's like, no, we're not doing the thing. Because if we do the thing, now you're going to get bullied. Just like that time at patrol camp. And we're not letting that happen to you. No. So I'm going to make sure that you never reach that. It was safety. She was loving me into safety. And until I said, it's okay, I got this, there's no more bullies. And let them come. Let them come. Because let me tell you, we have amazing friends around us that would defend us. We have people around us now that would be so potently protective of us. And let me tell you that I am protective of me, that I don't let anybody mess with me anymore because I don't believe in any of that stuff. That's not going to happen for us. And she's like, really? Like it was such a potent healing that she comes with me everywhere. I check in with her from time to time. When I notice I'm procrastinating, I'm like, okay, girl, what's happening? What's happening? And then we might have a conversation about it. So this is the healing work. And then the fifth block is not listening to your intuition. Y'all, I'm a psychic, right? Intuition is the gold. It is the voice that will never steer you wrong. I'm literally working now with multiple clients where they're like, I literally had a client said, my gut said no, but I did it anyway. And I said, I want to go back and I want you to say that again. And she said, what? I said, what did your gut say? My gut said no. And I said, what did you do? She's like, the opposite. And she started laughing. And I said, why? Why did you do the opposite? She said, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And she started to cry. She didn't even realize that she was doing it because it was so ingrained in her that I need to make sure everybody likes me. I got to do the right thing so everybody's happy. And your gut's not telling you that for a reason, because the no is actually protecting you. When you say yes, you're now going down a trauma pattern. So listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, it's going to feel hard. And when it feels hard, I want you to ask yourself, why? Why are you doing the opposite? What is helping? What is it trying to do to keep you safe? The opposite is the trauma response. Your intuition is telling you to do something, and the opposite thing that you want to do, right? Leaky boundaries, saying yes when you want to say no. All of those things are giving you something. You're trying to force things, you're trying to please others instead of flowing. Your brain is telling you one thing, your heart's telling you another. And the heart is always the path to where you need to go with safety. I'll always say with safety. So you want to reframe your thoughts. You want to dig deep into that and ask yourself, what is this trying to keep me safe from? And then you want to take aligned action, just one aligned action towards your abundance. So if your gut's saying no, but you want to say yes, you're going to say, let me think about that. I do that all the time because sometimes saying no is hard, right? I'm an empath. I can feel when I disappoint people. I can feel when my no makes you mad, right? Or whatever it is, or disappointing yourself, or you have a trauma response to my no and it makes you feel bad about yourself, right? And I know that's not my job to manage your expectation. It still feels hard as an empath when I can feel that in you, right? And the truth is, I don't know the whole story. I can just feel your disappointment. I don't know the story you're telling yourself about that. So I learned at a very young age, I managed disappointment by saying yes, being a good girl, achieving to receive, right? And now I am changing that pattern within myself. You might recognize this because you have this pattern too, probably. So as I learn to listen to my intuition, I say kind no's. I can be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not able to attend this time because my schedule is full, but check me on the next time and see if maybe I can attend, right? Or let me get back to you, and then I'll get back to them on email. Sorry, I'm not able to attend. I have other commitments that day. The truth is, I am practicing holding white space because I fill my calendar so full that I'm so tired and I'm not doing burnout anymore, y'all, because I'm listening to my intuition, right? So I'm trying to hold white space. So when an opportunity comes on a day, because I used to have, if it's open in my calendar, I'm going to say yes, because that feels alignment from the universe. And the universe goes, okay, now we're going to take you to the next level. Okay, now you're going to be available. Are you going to say yes, even though it's not in alignment? And I had to learn that. So this is my year of no, where I am saying no unless it is full body alignment, gut yes, and I have to wait 3 days before I say yes. I can't say yes in excitement because that's not accurate either. My excitement I'm a Sagittarius moon, man, everything is exciting to me. I got to say a neutral yes. So that is something I feel like I need to share with you because someone on this podcast needs to hear that. So, my friends, this is a long episode because we had 5 and lots to share around it. The shift to abundance isn't just about waiting for external proof. It's about embodying your wealth, your abundance, your gratitude, your intuition, all the things that come from within you out into the world now. Trusting that as you shift your energy, that your reality will follow. As you heal the parts of you that are connected to lack for whatever reason, that abundance will follow. And as you sit with all the gratitude that the amazing soul you are was born with these impressive gifts, as you live those out into the world, abundance will follow. Thank you for being here. I am wishing you abundance from the inside out.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.